there is in actually I talked about the stages we have in making the project come up to life. We have the initiation phase, the planning phase, the execution phase, monitoring and control, then the closure. So last time I talked about the initiation phase. Now I'm talking about planning phase. Please, the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, so firstly, what is planning? Planning is the most important stage where we put together an execution strategy and can get the job done and easily monitored and control and determine the scope, schedule, budget, and risk we can with an accuracy of plus or minus 10%. So we know what we are getting into before we start. So this is just telling us what planning does. Planning is the part that is the most essential of all we are doing in the project. We have to plan. Without planning, the project will be very slow. It's not like it might not be successful, but with planning, our success rate will be higher. And planning is the bedrock of all your project work. After initiation, after you have initiated the project, the planning phase is the next stage that is very, very important. That must not be left without doing anything there, because it's the one that lays the table for the execution, which leads to monitoring and control. Please, next slide. Yeah, so the things that planning entails. Planning talks about the risk, the cost, time, communication, and also the scope. So these are the 5 things I'm discussing with us today. Please, next slide. The scope. This is the process that help in determining all the documenting, the list of all the project goals, tasks, and deliverables. The scope is everything that the project will need to be able to come to life. All the tasks that we'll be making, that we need to put the project into life, everything that is going to embed, all the tasks that needs to be done to be able to achieve certain deliverables, and those deliverables will turn to milestones. Then after those milestones is going to lead to the successful completion of that project. So these scopes are what are the processes to follow, step follow to reach a complete project. That's what scope is, and it's very, very important in the planning stage. It's one of the most important part of the planning stage. Please, the next slide. Incomplete scope also can be a problem for the project, because the main solution to the most common cause of project failure, incomplete scope definition, is to take the time to interview everyone and baseline the requirements. This need not want, but not how complete, consistent, and probable. This incomplete scope means that if the scope is not well done, if it's not done very well, you are going to have problems in the project, because this scope will actually make you to baseline everything you're going to need for the project. You're going to put out everything that is needed in the project to make it out. You know, okay, you are done to deliver this deliverable. You are done that to, okay, this risk, once it's come up, is this person that will face it? I know that's what the scope covers. It tries to bring everything out. And sometimes this is the problem of the project. It still puts it there. That's what the scope covers. Everything around the project, it puts it in there. Please, next slide. Okay. Work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure identifies all the deliverable, both passed to the customer at the end of the project, as well as the interim output produced during the project, just to get it done and make everything else in plan. So the work breakdown structure is the process, is like the way the work is being broken down to make it easier for the work to be done. Like, okay, let's say you want to build a house now. Okay, instead of you to just say, okay, all of you should be working. So, okay, let's break this thing down into smaller tasks, so we'll be able to get everything done quickly and easily. So now what work breakdown structure help you to do? And also the work breakdown structure can either be hierarchical or by phases, in a combination or whatever is the clearest for human communication, which categorized by manual covenancy and education deliverables by what really matters. So in this work breakdown structure, it also helps you to arrange the deliverables into the one that is highly sought after, to the one that is less important, most important to less important, so that you won't be off track. So that's what this work breakdown structure is. Okay, this one needs needs our attention the most. So let us put our attention here. That's what this work breakdown, to make everything open and make it widely seen. This one also is very, very important also, as also as important as the planning, because it's the planning also that will lead to work breakdown structure. After the planning has been done, the work will be gotten at the end. It will not be broken down into parts and people to take over. Please, next slide. The next slide is the diagram of a work breakdown structure, how it is done. This the one we have on our screen here is an aircraft system that is the work to be done. So the work that is going to be done on it has been broken down so that it will be well equipped. So you'll be able to see what you are getting into. So now you see that it has different places. It has the air vehicle. It has the air vehicle and all other. All right, so that's what work breakdown structure means. It has been delivered broken down and listing all the things that will be needed in each of those stages. That's what it does. So that's what the work breakdown structure does. Next slide. So now this place is the precedence diagram, otherwise called the critical path. That's what this one is used to calculate the critical path. That's what I call it the critical path, this precedence diagram. After the work breakdown structure has been done, it's going to use to generate the precedence diagram. So when the precedence diagram has been gotten, all the deliverable will come together. So you will know the amount of days it will take you to complete the whole process. So then there are ways like this precedence diagram. Once you are looking at it like this, is the longest amount of time that is going to be used when calculating it. So you take the one that has the most amount of time. That is going to be your critical part. So that's the longest one that will take you to complete the project. You'll be able to tell you when the project will start and when the project will end. That's why the precedence diagram also is very important. Next slide. Now, estimation deliverable, time, cost, and resources is most accurately done by the activity breakdown performed by the persons that will be responsible for the work and the key step that results in an overall project plan estimate. So when you are doing a project, you need to always be to estimate. Like there are some things you have to estimate. So as a project manager, you might not be able to know the prices of some things, be able to know the estimate needed in some tasks that are given. So you need someone that knows about it. So the person that has been assigned to that task is someone that is very knowledgeable about it. So as you give him the task, he knows what to do there already. So it's not new to him again. So he already knows what to do there. So he'll be able to give you an accurate estimate, so that when you are giving an overall estimate, you'll be able to get a plus or minus 10 accuracy without, so that at least the buffer will not be that much. And it's not buffer, not that much. Sorry about that. This thing, it will be very accurate, and you'll be able to get the actual time that you will use to end the project. That's what estimation is for. Because also you can estimate very well, you will know you have a start date and an end date already. Next slide. So the precedence, this is the precedence diagram, and the deliverable estimate are loaded onto a Gantt chart tools, giving a start date, and the tool maps the work across the calendar and determines the critical part of the back-to-back deliverable, driving the schedule date. The diagram shown here is a Gantt chart, and the Gantt chart is a tool to use by the project manager to monitor all the project and tasks that are given onto us. After the critical part has been done, this Gantt chart is used to show how it is moving. The continuous deliverable to be delivered back to back without stopping with the longest time is one that is used to draw this critical Gantt chart. And this Gantt chart will show you the amount of days. If it is done, it will be marking it out for you. You'll be able to use it to monitor it very well. And it is used in both planning, monitoring, and control and execution stage. This Gantt chart is one of the most powerful tools for a project manager. Hope you guys can still hear me. Hello.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. Please, next slide. Okay, so now this is one of the most important part of planning a project, taking risk into consideration. Risk planning adds time and money into the project to take account of uncertain events that could negatively impact the project. Risks are things that affect the project negatively and can hinder the progress of a project. So risk is one of the most important things that needs to be looked into before starting a project. You have to look into all the risks that is going to affect your project. Either that's going to affect your project, even the ones that that might not even affect. You have to put everything into check so that at the end of the day, you won't start spending money that will pass the budget of the project. Because when the risk has been done and there's already a budget for the risk to be able to tackle the risk, and also they are already placed personnel that knows about it, be able to deal with the risk. At that time, it won't be a higher problem to you. It will be easier for you to control. But if it's that after the risk has now come, you're now just working on it, first it will take time, it will take more resources, and you might never get the value you are looking for. But if you have done it during the planning stage, you'll be able to tackle all that without even, when that comes, it's not even really show. So that's one of the greatest part of planning risk. So when you're doing a project, you have to plan the risk with it. Risks are most commonly identified by brainstorming the core project team with the core project team with the standard risk checklist and the baseline at the risk statement. What I said before, risk have to be checked out. You have to look out deep into the risk catalog, check all the risks that come up, because it's as important as the planning itself. Because risk is part of the we have something called a triangle. We have the time, scope, cost, and risk is always there. So everything has to be balanced. The risk has to be balanced because everything, you have to plan for everything. As you're planning for the scope, you're planning for the time, planning for the cost. You have to plan for the risk also. Because if the risk is not looked into, it will affect both the cost, the scope, and the time. Risk response planning, assign an owner closest to the risks. A trigger identifies secondary risk and develop the plan to avoid or mitigate the risks now during planning or later during the project if required. I would have said that. I've said this one also that during risk planning, when you have known the type of risk that can occur, you try to get the best person involved a personnel that can handle the risk very well. You put him in charge of that risk so that when it occurs, it won't be a big issue when it occurs. So when you have already put a good personnel that knows about it, then it will be easier to solve it and tackle it. Next slide. Yeah, risk register. This is just a risk register. How to register a risk. The risk register should include at least 5 risks, maximum 10, typically amount to 5 to 15% of the project budget, and more or less depending on the project. So this is just talking about how the risk register is taken, because during planning, you have to have something called a risk register. And that risk register, you have to have at least 5 risks that can affect that project you are doing, maximum of 10. So, and when you're not planning in your budget, any budget you have that for a project, 5 to 10% of that, 5 to 15% of that project, or that budget is going for risk planning. You just separate it out for risk planning. So if you're having a 2 million contract now for a project, you are removing 15% or 10% or 5%. So just to focus on risk in case of risk occurs. So the rest can be used to do the project. That 15%, in case of a risk occur, it will be able to tackle it easily. The risk cost goes into a controlled account, requiring justification to draw down, and all the time is bundled into a buffer that goes at the end of the project before the key customer event. To take this hit from schedule slip instead of the customer, and so it can be used for anything that goes down along the way. So that risk budget that you remove from the project money, it has to go into an account that you have to, before you even be able to collect it, you have to give the reason why you want to collect it. You can't just easily touch it. That money must not be tampered with. It has to be well controlled, have to be well monitored, because it's there for a problem to focus on the risk. Because if you are using the money for what is not used for, it might have effect on the project when the real use of that money comes up. So, and that will not be good enough. It will put defect to the project. Next slide. Yeah, Communication, one of the most important, one of the useful attribute or part of the planning. Also, we have to communicate with each other during stand-ups, during maybe brainstorming section. That's what communication, how you talk, how you communicate with each other. Because the more you communicate, it's easier for you to get the project done quickly. Because look at this issue now. When you have, so like, let me use national thing now. Let me say, you have someone speaking English, you have someone speaking Yoruba, you have someone speaking French, you have someone speaking Spanish. You want to do a project now. You are speaking different languages. You can't understand each other. You don't know what each other are saying. This one is saying this one is misinterpreting it. The next one is misinterpreting it. This one is misinterpreting it. So when you come back, the project will be in a chaos. It will not have a nice feel. But if you have a certain line that everybody, like, you have a certain way of communication with each other, that everybody must, that everybody know that, okay, this type of what we are using, that, okay, this thing, we have done this thing, you have already achieved that goal. It'll be easier for us to be able to finish that project to time. If that's how powerful communication is. Communication is very, very powerful, because if you can't communicate, you can't go further in the project. The project will end up being a disaster. Because once you can't communicate the idea of the project and the sponsor that owns the project, if you can communicate this idea to your working team, it will slow down the process of the project, number one. It will add more cost to the project, number two, and it will take more time. So just to extradite all this, there should be a certain line of communication. That's during stand-up, having the milestone checklist, having a type of list that you have to tick, like everybody knows what it means there. So next slide, please. So this is just like an extra information that I'd just like to share. Prepare a project management plan documenting the scope, time, cost, risk, baselines, and section or separate plan as required for stakeholders, resource communication, quality, procedures, change control, and the requirements usually with a cross-reference to the deliverables that meet them. So when you are preparing a project, basically, everything must be documented. The scope, the cost, the risks, and the scope, cost, risks, and time must be put there, must be written down very well. And the deliverables that are to be delivered also must be well sectioned to the person that is responsible for them. So that when a need arises, that you need to know who is responsible for this, you'll be able to know who to go and meet, to know why it is not going well and why this is not happening yet, or why this is not there. Because if you know that one now, it will be easier to complete the project. Then review the plan with the sponsor, customer, and other relevant stakeholders. Request time to work with any changes, provide options wherever possible, and make absolute sure scope, time, cost, and risk are properly balanced and truthfully communicated before proceeding to execution. So this way is telling us that before you move to the execution phase of a project, ensure that the sponsor of the project, the customer, the stakeholders, those stakeholders means that everybody the project is going to affect positively or negatively. Let's say now you are building a refinery, you want to build it in the middle of the city. Everybody living around that area of that refinery are stakeholders in that project, because whatever you are producing from that distance, if it's going to affect them negatively, it will reduce it can affect your business plan. And if you not really talk about it before starting a project, it will reduce the rate at which the project will get completed, because people that you want to be producing things for, you're already killing them with what you are producing. So you have to put that one also in check. So every stakeholder that is going to be affected by your product, you have to put them also in check, as well as the sponsor and the customer. And now, if there is going to be any changes in the project, you have to state everything clearly before the execution stage starts. Because once the execution of a project starts, it is hard to go back. Because once you are going back, you're already wasting time, and you're already using more money, and the scope is already going outside the scope. So when you now have this type of issue, you now find a way, because we have something in the triangle. You have three triangles, you have the triangle, you have the scope, you have the cost, and you have the time. So if one is more than one, there is a problem. So it has to be balanced at all times. It has to be balanced. Let's say you have a bigger scope, that means maybe you have a larger scope, that means you have to increase the time and you have to increase the cost. Unless you have a smaller scope and a bigger budget, sometimes you have to drop the cost there. This is the time. So always try to keep the triangle in check. Always try to ensure the triangle is balanced at all times, and also taking note of the risk, because the risk also is as important as everything in the project. Last slide. Thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, you can ask your questions now. Hello.
Oh, okay. I can hear you.
Hello, good morning. Okay, I say you have any question, please, you can ask your questions now. Okay. So nobody has questions. All right. Okay.
If they don't have questions,
let me ask. Please, what's planning? Anybody can answer. Yeah, I'm already doing that. I said, what's planning? Peculiar, please, what's planning?
Good morning. Sir, can you hear me? Good morning, can you hear me?
I think we can hear you, but you can't.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Planning is a way of making arrangements, according to what I understand from what you just said now. Making arrangements for a project. Hello?
Tolu, are you still there? Hello, Tolu. Tolu, are you still there? Okay, Peculiar, yeah. I think based on what he explained, the answer you gave is not wrong, or you actually answered correctly. Is there anyone that wants to also tell us what planning is?
Are you talking to me? You're breaking up.
Yeah, you went off for a while. Can anyone hear me? Sorry. It's someone can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
It's from Tolu's side. Okay. Yeah. So it's all right. And did you just join, or like did you listen to Tolu's presentation?
I listened to an extent, though. Sorry, I have very noisy. That's why I'm not owning my mic.
Okay. One other person before we conclude. Okay. Let me see. So Mohammed, quickly just tell us one or two things you got from the presentation.
Yeah, okay. So basically, just like Peculiar explained, planning is just more like a function of management that involves setting objectives and determining the course of action for achieving the objectives, right? He also talked about organizing, leading, and as well as controlling. And a very important part he also mentioned was risk, identifying this risk and, curbing them, and as well noticing when those risks, can come into play, and even have, fiscal plans for those risk itself. Yeah, so that's basically like sort of the highlights I got from the presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Well done. Yeah, okay. Since today is having issue with his network, I think we just call it a day.
I think
We'll
I'm
meet
back
again.
already.
Okay, back. Okay.
Yeah.
Bekele already answered. Also, Mohammed also answered.
All right. Do anybody have any question or something? There is no question. We can end the meeting.
Yeah, in the absence of any other discussion or any question to be asked, the meeting, the kids section for today has come to an end. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
And you too, sir.